All right, pound, include, we brought this up a little earlier, string, that means I want to use strings in my program, and we'll learn more about those. Include, and then IO string, that means I'm going to use input output. Put the wrong, hang on a second there, fix that, I have to have the right bracket there. There we go. So that tells the system I'm going to use CIN and COUT, and we'll learn more about CIN and COUT later. So now that we have our two header files, or these are those preprocessors that we spoke about earlier, that's what they are. There are files that go with these that that have little programs in it. So the cout, where we type something on the screen, we want something on the screen, that is, the instructions for that is found in here, and so on. All right, so I see I added a D here. I think I need to take that off. See that red line underneath? The red line indicates something's wrong. See, it disappeared because I took the D off of that include statement. Now I want to make a comment right here. So make a comment. These are library files or header files. They tell the compiler where to find modules for your needed for modules. Okay, I'm going to continue down here. Needed for your program. There we go. That looks good. Now, I'm going to do a /* because I'll write a little short paragraph here. Visual Studio is a program that has a compiler that converts our code into machine language. Well, can't spell. There we go. You remember what machine language is? Ones and zeros, right? So I'm going to put that in parentheses. Ones and zeros. Okay, you remember that? I'm going to the next line. Okay. The compiler does the converting. All right. I'm done with that. I like to take this little ending comment underneath my paragraph. To me, it makes it easier to see where it starts and stops. All right, so notice how I can skip a space. I do that just to make it more readable for me, the human being. The computer just ignores that line. But for me, it groups things together where it's easy for me to tell where I am and what I'm doing. So now I'm going to use a thing called using namespace std. If I didn't do this, I would have to type std in front of every CIN or COUT statement that I want to use. But by putting this at the first of the program, I'm saying, hey, we're using std, and so we don't have to type it every time. All right, for now, think of this as a transmission in your car. Anyway, so now I want to start the main part of the program. This is the part of the program that is actual coding, because so far we've made mostly comments, and then we called up a couple of header files or library files, right? So now I'm going to tell the computer int main, and then I'm going to do these little parentheses, because those little parentheses are part of a function. So we're dealing with the main function right now. And you'll learn about the fact that there can be all kinds of functions. Main is the one that controls all the other functions. So this is like the main one, right? All right, so now I'm going to start off with another comment. Can you believe that? Well, first, before I do, we have to have a little curly bracket to start our actual function and to end it. So there, when I put the first curly bracket in, it automatically brought up the second one. What I'm going to do is hit the enter key and move that second one down out of my way. And I don't like to type on the same line as that initial one, so it just makes it easier for me to see the beginning and ending of that main program. So I like it that way. It does, you know, everyone has their own way of separating and making the program easy to read. So, you know, you do what works for you. So for right now, I'm going to do another comment, /*, and I'm going to move the ending bracket for that comment down as well. I like them on separate lines. All right, so now I'm going to make comments that the computer will not read. So these comments are for the humans, and in this case, for you. What is a variable? Well, variables are storage for our data in our programs. They name locations in memory, in main memory. So when you name something a variable, it's storing a location in main memory to hold whatever value that variable has. All right, so there are several kinds or types of variables. We have CHAR, which stands for character. We have INT, which stands for integer. We have a double, which means it has a decimal value. And we have a string, which means it's more than one character. So it could be your name, for example. That's several characters put together. All right, so let's define each of these for your notes. CHAR is a variable type that stores a single character only. This can be any character. Numbers, letter, a period, etc. Okay, it could be any of those. Let's write a variable to store my middle initial. Whoops, INITIAL. All right, so I would put CHAR MIDINT. That's my variable. So I'm telling the computer I'm going to use a character data type. A character is a single character. It can't be more than one. It has to just be one. So mid-int, that is my variable that's going to hold my middle initial. So I'm going to set that middle initial to, whoops, N, because that's my middle initial. Now, this little semicolon says that's the end of my statement. I've just told the computer that I want to assign N to a location in memory that we named mid-int for middle initial. So now the value N is going to be stored in middle initial. Notice characters have a single quote, one little quote mark, not the double, just the single quote. Now, the equals sign is called the assignment operator. It's because we are assigning the character in to the variable mid-initial, okay, or mid-int. Variable names have rules. They cannot contain spaces or special characters, and they must begin with not begin with numerals. However, let's go to the next line here. However, an underscore can, the capital C-A-N, be used. Okay? The naming scheme, because you're going to have to come up with your own variables. You're going to have to make them up. So the naming scheme we use for variable names that are more than one word is called camel casing or camel hump. Okay? We join together more than one word by capitalizing the first character of the second word. This is not required by Visual Studio or the compiler. Okay? It is done for human readability. A variable is an identifier. It identifies data you will use in your program. Okay, so you can identify what is it holding, what kind of data, what does it represent. You need to understand identifier because there are other kinds of identifiers. There are other kinds of identifiers. A variable is just one of them. Okay? So, to test your understanding, declare a variable called MIDINT to store your middle initial. See if you know how to declare it. I'll give you a second. Pause the video and try it. If you tried it, it should look just like this, only the letter right here inside the quotations would be whatever your middle initial is. So it'd be identical to this.